Some people are going to call this car a Tesla killer. I'm not going to say those people are stupid, but I'm going to say they're wrong. It's not a Tesla killer, but it is an amazing car. That is the BYD Seal, and this is the Fully Charged Show.
Fancy seeing the BYD Seal for yourself? Then come to Fully Charged Live Amsterdam this weekend on the 24th, 25th and 26th of November. Get your tickets today.
So when you get to test a new car like this, you often go to really exotic locations around the place. We've ended up in amazing coastal regions and mountains, bright sunshine. It's been a wonderful. And today we've come to a beautiful part of the United Kingdom called the Lake District in the north of England, very near Scotland. And it's got mountains, it's got rivers, streams and lakes. It's beautiful, lots of sheep. We've come here on probably the wettest, dullest day that even this area of the United Kingdom has had in many a long year. Torrential rain, really low clouds. What a delight. But what it is good for is testing the phenomenal road holding abilities of the BYD Seal. I think it's worth looking back at a bit of the history of the company that made this car. And you will notice I'm going to be very careful about naming the company, because if I say the three letters in its title, the sat-nav, the whole software system wakes up. That's how you ask the car, directions or where you're going or all those sort of things. And so I can't say the three letters. So I'm going to say Build Your Dreams, which is what the three letters stand for. So when Build Your Dreams was started in 1995, no one outside a very small group of engineers and battery scientists would have heard of it. And yet we were all using their product, so they were in everything. So currently, Build Your Dreams makes half of all the iPads in the world, and that we're talking hundreds of millions. They make a fifth of all batteries in all cell phones, right across the spectrum of cell phones. Billions of batteries. They are a battery manufacturer that went on to make cars. They're not a car manufacturer that tried to work out how to make batteries. And I've got a feeling that gives them a little bit of an advantage. What they've actually built this car using, their Blade battery, is the kind of latest iteration of that, and the way they've built it is remarkable. So what you're actually doing when your feet are on the floor, your feet are pretty much literally on the top of the battery. So the battery pack, it is the floor of the vehicle. It's a structural part of the vehicle. It's what holds the whole vehicle together. And we saw some pretty impressive footage last night, which we can show you now, which is of a crash test. So they smashed the car sideways into a big pillar, absolutely smashed the door in, wrecked the car. It would have written the car off in an accident, a severe accident. Then they turned the car around and smashed it on the other side. So it was totally wrecked. Then they lifted the car up, took the battery pack out of the car, put it in another car, started the other car up, drove off. Absolutely no problem. So the battery pack withstood what I would consider to be pretty serious crash damage. And it wasn't damaged, it didn't catch fire, all the things that people talk about with electric car batteries. Not only that, the BYD Blade batteries, they have done the nail test. And that is literally, you put the battery on a bench when it's fully charged and you smash a nail through it with a big hammer. And nothing happens. It doesn't explode, it doesn't burst into flames. These cars are incredibly safe, and really, when it comes down to it, and this is something we've been dealing with outside the Fully Charged show, but with other things we're working on, the stock BS, which there'll be links for in the show notes for this, with a lot of stuff about battery fires, is utter not the most dangerous cars that catch fire the most: diesel, petrol and hybrid, particularly hybrid. But I won't rant on about that for now. What is interesting actually is when I'm concentrating on just driving or talking, I completely forget that I'm in a car I've never driven before. It is actually in its driving characteristics, its position, its the visibility out the windscreen, everything about it is quite Tesla Model 3-ish, and that's a compliment, because I think the Tesla Model 3 is an extraordinary car. But I think this one is just fractionally better. For example, I've got a heads-up display with my speed on the windscreen, so I am looking at the road and I can see how fast I'm going. And there's some people walking in the Lake District. That breaks my heart. They're walking on a day like this. They've come all the way to do walking in this beautiful countryside, and it's like this. And normally when we have a walk round a new car, we will do it outside in some glamorous location, but because it's raining so heavily today, we're doing it in the showroom. BYD have handed us their showroom for the afternoon. Aren't we lucky? But this is the BYD Seal, and I've got to say, as soon as I saw it, I went, that's nice. I saw the back end first, and I liked it straight away. I'm not going to be able to do the beautiful description of the bodywork and the styling and the design of the lights that Jack does normally on the show, but I'm just going to say, I quite like it. This would all be, you'd be able to do all this with an app. I don't have the app yet, but the back has got, it's very like, as you can tell, the Tesla Model 3. So it has got a proper old-fashioned boot, we call it in the country, or a trunk, because it's a saloon car. It's a proper saloon car. You press the little button and it closes again. 411 litres of space there, but obviously if you put the seats down, you get a lot more. But it's not going to be, you know, if people who've got dogs, I know people who've got big dogs, they want a big opening trunk to get their dogs in. Completely glass roof, beautifully done. No central beam like the Tesla Model 3 is. I'm only saying about the Tesla Model 3 as obviously there is going to be comparisons made. And the reason I said at the very beginning about it not being a Tesla killer, because Tesla are selling cars more than you can poke a stick at. Millions every year. But so are BYD. They've sold over 5.2 million electric cars, this company has already, obviously mostly in China. We're now starting to see them outside China. But I tell you who this is the biggest challenge to, is the biggest car company in the world, Toyota, who have been so slow at joining in the electric transition. But up until this year, Japan as a country was either the second or the third biggest car exporter in the world. They're currently the third biggest. But the next few months, China will overtake them as the biggest car exporter in the world, and they will continue to grow. So, you know, this is something we've got to deal with. It's too late to stop now. We moved all our manufacturing to China very happily in the 80s and the 90s and the early noughties, and now they're really, really good at it.
Please support our Stop Burning Stuff Patreon and help us to tackle misinformation about electric vehicles and clean energy.
Here's another thing with this car, it has a high efficiency heat pump. Now, the technology of that, the intricate technology I'm not sure about, but what I do know is its robustness and its low energy use and its reliability. So I'm really nice and warm and dry in this car driving through horrendous weather. This heat pump can operate from minus 30 degrees centigrade to plus 60 degrees centigrade. That is a terrifyingly wide margin of atmospheres on the planet Earth. I think it's built for the future. But that is, you know, one of the big changes with electric cars that that you may have heard if you've never driven one is, oh God, you can't turn the heating on because you've got no range. You will not notice any depreciation in range at all by turning on the heating. That was very much the case with early electric cars. It's no longer the case. You know, the technology has moved on. As with so many aspects of electric vehicles, you can't compare this car to one that was even available 5 years ago. The technology has moved on to such an extent they're not comparable. So I'm currently driving on eco mode, and I've got to tell you, it is so lovely. It's just this smooth, continuous power. If you do want to go a bit faster, it's not jerky, it's very, very calm. It just gradually builds up speed, but it does not feel unpowerful. It feels that it's got very restrained power. It's got way, way more. So there are three settings. There's, I think, is it comfort? No, it's normal, sport, and eco. So this is in sport now, and you do then get a noticeable vroom. But even that, it's got it's kind of like being pushed along by a really fluffy duvet. It's not being pushed along by a lump of concrete. It's like a that pushes you forward. I think it's really nice. It's a really nice feeling. It feels very controlled, very powerful, but not insane, not like crazy, angry, it's not ludicrous. So this car comes with an 82.5 kilowatt hour usable battery capacity. That's what you actually use it. So it will be bigger than that. Its capacity will be bigger, but that's what you use when you're driving it. That gives it a WLTP range of 325 miles. Well, I know for a fact that that is probably very much closer to 300. But basically, I could imagine this car will do 300 miles on a charge with, you know, even in weather like this. So it's super adequate. So the interior is, I would say, high end. I would classify this as really, really luxurious. I mean, what it reminded me of for a very short period of time was the Mercedes EQS, which was like the first time I'd been in like something really posh. This is maybe one step down from that. It's not really posh, but it's posh. It's beautifully put together. It's so tightly made. And when you drive it, it's just a solid thing. It's not got wibbly wobbly bits. It's just really, really nice. It's got some quirky things and some really, really cool things. This is a brand new car. This has only driven 15 miles, so there's not a lot of data on the screen here. Here's one thing you might not expect, because that looks very Model 3-ish, but you press that little button there and it twizzles round and it then adjusts, and so you have an upright, which I thought, well, I'm not sure if that's really cool, but actually if you have that, if you're driving along, you can choose between all the different screens. It's not that one, it's that one. Yeah, I quite like that. That's just a clock. It's really, really simple. There's nothing to distract you when you're driving if you don't need the sat-nav. Obviously, if you're going to use the sat-nav, that's a different matter. So I quite like that. You can also, you don't need to touch the screen to do that. You can do that from the steering wheel. The buttons on the steering wheel, pretty intuitive. I worked them out pretty quickly. The cruise control, the adaptive cruise control, very easy to set that, use that. You can hit a button and you get the all-round cameras all around the car, which when you're parking, I suppose. I found the reversing camera really good. The camera out the back really good with the guidance of where you're going. That works beautifully, but there's a lot of other cameras all around, which I found a bit overwhelming and confusing. There was so much information on the screen that I started to use the mirrors, but that you get used to it. So all this is standard. There's not like a top level, bottom level. All the equipment in here is standard. The seats are really, really good. Sports seats with heating and cooling. Very adjustable, really, really comfy, nice materials. All the materials very, very beautifully done, very nicely done. Nice big cubby hole there and a bit of storage under. That's where I put everything there. Obviously phone charger goes there, the wireless phone charger, but we had the wire plugged in when we were driving it. It does Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. It just does it. You don't have to faff about. That just works. Gear select, stop start, parking button, modes, volume. Everything that you would normally use, I found in about 4 seconds. I wasn't going, oh, how do you turn the volume down? It was very, very simple to do. So you learn it quickly. As back seats go, this is up there. This is in the top 1%, I'd say. This is really, really comfy. Loads of room. One slight thing, which cameraman Andy pointed out, and I would have noticed if I'd been in it for a long time, is you can't put your feet under the driver's seat or the passenger seat. Like if you want to stretch your legs a bit more, there's plenty of room. It's easy to get in and out of. It's a completely flat floor. But, occasionally you want to kind of, you could do that. It's just to stretch your leg. You can't. That's it. That's as far as that's like, I've got to sit like that, like in the drawing. It's got USB ports down here, quite discreet. USB, old school USB and USB 2, 3, USB 3, C. So it can be a 5-seater, but it's got an armrest with cup holders. Oh, now I'm comfy. Now I don't care about my feet not going under that seat. I'm very happy in the back. Carry on, driver. If you are interested in this car, where do you go to see one other than the Fully Charged live show? Obviously, that's the place to come and see these cars and do test drives. But failing that, if you can't make it to one of those, you'll be able to go to a BYD showroom. At the moment, there's only 10 in the whole country. These are showrooms and obviously service centres, and that's where you can go and find out about the cars. There's 10 of them in the UK at the moment. By this time next year, there will be 80. So they are expanding at a phenomenal rate. and we really are testing the waterproofness of this vehicle, because my goodness, there's a lot of it around. But so they are expanding so fast, and that's just in the UK. Over the rest of Europe, it's going to be off the scale. There'll be hundreds and hundreds. I'm just going to do it a little bit of bipping on a really wet, rough road. You did not see that.
There's a bit of headroom back.
For those of you watching this at home, probably not on the actual episode, we just got air. I don't know that we quite did, but we were f***ing close. That was the driver not anticipating the extraordinary hump in the road. I don't know how you adjust where it blows on you.